Local. It's the B Plus Wrestling Podcast.
The Moose.
Might not be an A, but you are a B plus.
Check it out. Here we go. You wanna mess with us? 'Cause we're steady on the ground.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen out there in the B Plus land. It is me, Mr. Mysterious, hosting for you guys all the rest. You guys would have heard me earlier this week. I actually helped out Greg cover the latest Aussie Graps podcast as he was dealing with having a tooth pulled out. So you can check that, guys. We had a little flashback to Jonah Rock's interview with us before, I believe it might have been his last interview before he went on to NXT. So you guys should check that out. But you guys listening to me now on All the Rest. It's good to be back in the mystery spot talking All the Rest. It's been a weird one this week, but of course, what other week hasn't been with wrestling? Because it's professional wrestling. Anything can happen. Our expectations can be met, exceeded, lowered in this weird thing that we call professional wrestling. It's a very confusing time, and I'm going to break it down for you guys as always. Housekeeping before I start, birthday news. At the time I'm recording, wish a happy 60th birthday to Bob Armstrong. Big congratulations to him. He's the referee. He's been doing it for a very long time. And I believe tomorrow, when this gets released to you guys, actually, so on May 5th, so I'm recording this on May the 4th, happy Star Wars Day, guys. You should hit me up and talk to me on the socials about what you love about Star Wars. And by the time this gets released, guys, Mr. Fuji, the late Mr. Fuji, would have turned 84, and Alicia Webb would have turned 40, or as many of you might have known her as Ryan Shamrock, the younger sister of the most dangerous man on the planet, Ken Shamrock. That was a thing that happened. But as always, guys, I'm going to be covering MLW, NWA, All Elite Wrestling news, as well as all the other news that's come across my desk, hot off the press. And why don't we start with MLW episode 55, main evented by a tables match between the Hart Foundation versus the Dynasty. This one really kicked off pretty strong. I love the whole commentary team dynamic that we have now, where we cut to Jim Cornette and Rich Bikini up in a higher level somewhere, and then they cut to down near the ring, so they're not at ringside anymore. It's like a nice broadcasting. They've really got the fight dynamic going on here, which is one of the reasons I love MLW and talking to you guys about it. As we mentioned last week, MLW have a new championship planned, and that is the National Openweight Championship. They announced that on this episode as well, in case anyone hadn't heard of all the rumors and innuendo. So they're going to have a tournament to crown the inaugural National Openweight Champion. I have a few picks of who that might be, but we'll see what happens there. So we kicked off. Our first match was Jordan Oliver making his MLW Fusion debut. Of course, he was part of the Battle Riot, facing off against the Haitian sensation Koto Brazil, and Koto's still wearing that eye patch. The lingering effects of that attack by Ricky Martinez of Promociones Dorado. I mean, he doesn't show up for ages. He appears out of nowhere. Like, I don't know what they're doing with this eye injury. Whether, like, he hasn't changed that. They say that he needs to change his moveset and make it seem like he's a changed man, but he's doing the exact same stuff. And we haven't had a chance to hear his side of the story since he lost at, I believe, Super Fight, as much as we kind of want to forget Super Fight. But that was a thing. As for the match itself, I really did enjoy the chemistry in this. Again, Koto Brazil, very solid middleweight guy. Not much in terms of storyline here. This is just a throwaway match. Just to show Jordan Oliver, who is another 19-year-old like hot talent that MLW seized up during the Battle Riot. So Brazil made a comeback at one point, hit a frog splash for a near fall. Then before Brazil could capitalize on this, out comes Selena De La Renta and Ricky Martinez down to ringside. And I like the finish of this because it wasn't like a quick, oh, I've noticed you. Oh, wait, roll up, 1, 2, 3, it's over. So they were the distraction throughout, but it wasn't a straightaway distraction. So they did cost Koto Brazil the match. But yeah, so Selena and Martinez begrudgingly rooted Oliver on, who couldn't get the job done on his own. Martinez tripped Brazil up, who got a dive on the outside for his trouble. This distraction allowed Oliver to set Brazil up for a diving cutter. It was to perfection. Selena was visibly happy at this. And of course, there doesn't seem like, are we continuing Koto's story with Selena and Promociones? I'm not too sure if they're gonna. How many people are they going to keep in a storyline with Promociones? Are they going to slowly start building everyone up until the entire roster has issues with Selena and Promociones until they're forced to disband? Maybe they're sowing the seeds, but for now, just a standard match. Solid way to kick off MLW. We have the grand opening of MLW's new headquarters in New York City, and it was announced that the next challenger for the MLW World Heavyweight Championship against Tom Lawler would be WXW's Robert Dreisker, the Avalanche. And he did an impressive performance at Battle Riot, to say the least. He was in there for quite a bit, I will say. And he did this really, he's trying to be menacing. I don't know much about Avalanche, but he's just like really putting the tone in everything. It came off a little bit cheesy to me, but I appreciate the effort just to make it seem like he's a credible threat because he's a big boy. We'll see how Tom Lawler faces off against him. Our next match, this is my highlight personally, between Ray Horace and Ace Austin. So with the newly announced Openweight Championship tournament on the horizon, management kept stressing, like the commentary kept stressing that both these guys would love to be a part of it. Hint, hint. Of course, Ray Horace in there would be a great addition. So before we go to the ring, we see footage from moments ago where the Dynasty attacked Brian Pillman. Oh, I should mention, we actually opened the show. So the Dynasty got their car back after the Heart Foundation had their fun with it. It was trash. There were condoms. There was trash. Like, they didn't see any animal droppings. Whatever there was, apparently there might have been stuff still in the car from last week after H2TV. So Hammerstone and Holiday, they find the car. Of course, Hammerstone is pissed off, and Holiday is trying to be the peacemaker here. He's trying to call MJF, saying, like, we found your car, and don't freak out. It's insured. Just come here right away. And Hammerstone's like, what about the condoms? It's like, don't tell him that. And it just made me laugh. So in response to that, before we had the match with Ray Horace, the Dynasty attacked Brian Pillman Jr. in the backstage area. They focused their attack on his left arm, bashing it with chairs and leaving the group with grins on their faces. What would that have in store for their tables match? Who knows? But as for this match, this one was just really fun. Very acrobatic contest, like as both men kind of felt each other out. Ace Austin tore the mask off Ray Horace at one stage. This signaled a darker turn in the match as Austin would become a more aggressive character. Casey Lennox was reporting from the outside training room that it doesn't look good for Brian Pillman Jr. Thanks, Casey. You didn't really tell us anything, but okay. Following that report, Horace came back to life in the ring, taking control of the contest. After an inverted rolling hurricanrana from the top rope, it was a beautiful one. It looked like a Frankensteiner at one stage. Horace picked up the win. So I believe that's his first win in MLW. He's had a couple of tag team matches where he hasn't been successful. So finally, Ray Horace successful in Major League Wrestling. Very happy for him. Next week, of course, we need to brace ourselves. The Bruja, the Empresonia, Promociones Dorado, Selena De La Renta will be the executive producer. And she's speaking on the phone to people. She's blowing off low-key. She's blowing off low-key. He's trying to say, like, he's, like, putting his fingers together saying, like, I need to plan for the open weight tournament because he's going to be in the running because, of course, he's my pick for the open weight title. I am very much looking forward to that. But yeah, she's kind of blowing him off just to focus on being a producer, and he's not too happy about that. I don't know if that will... We've had Promociones together for quite a while now, and maybe they're sowing the seeds, but I don't think this is anything more than just like, I'm busy, sorry, just not right now, just yet. So we hear from Tom Lawler. He's very pleased that he vanquished Jimmy Havoc, and he's ready to defend the MLW World title against all comers. So he's ready for Avalanche. Apparently there's someone in Japan who's after him, so he says konnichiwa, but you'll be out like the rest of them. And yeah, he's now got his sights set on Contra in some kind of match. It's actually been announced, so Tom Lawler will face off against the Contra unit with a mystery partner or partners. We don't know if it will be a 3-on-3, 2-on-3, how many members of Contra will be in there. Very much up in the air. I do like the mixed bag dynamic, although I feel like I hope it's a 3-on-3 match because eventually the other members of Contra will get involved. Call me crazy, just a hunch just based on their weeks of trying to set people on fire. It makes me wary of these things. So then we have the main event, a tables match, which is not for the tag titles, which immediately I was like, okay, the Foundation are going to lose. Like, the Dynasty are going to win this one. But, don't get me wrong, I love this match. This was an amazing edge of your seat tables match, except for one small thing. Not once did the Hart Foundation ever try and use a table. I mean, at all. This whole point, they were doing amazing spots. Teddy was hitting all these spots, like, did his moonsault, did his destroy, his Hemlock DDT. Like, Davey Boy went up and did the splash. Friggin', there was a big, super Canadian destroyer off of Brian Pillman, who came out, he fought through, and he came back, and they did this amazing spot where MJF was kind of like twitching at some point with how strong freaking Teddy threw him around. But not once did they try and finish the match. And again, this wasn't for the tag titles, but this is going to continue their feud. This just seemed like they don't give a shit, and there's no ring awareness there. I was really disappointed with that, So Brian Pillman didn't end up coming out initially. He came out later on. He fought through the pain, and yeah, this match heavily favored the Hart Foundation. Holiday attempted to start the match for the Dynasty, and he was met by a super kick by Davey Boy. Like, pretty much all three members were able to get their licks in on Teddy Hart, I should say the Dynasty. Teddy's shoulder was targeted and injured. They didn't go for the ribs. They're not trying to focus on that. But yeah, at the most crucial moment, that's when Brian Pillman came in, his shoulder taped up, helping with the assist. And again, no table spots. It seemed like the only person who realized there was a table was Hammerstone, who just immediately just did a freaking powerbomb to Brian Pillman Jr., tossed him through there, took him out, and that was how they won. Now, I'm curious, as from last week, how we had they looked like they'd been sowing the seeds for the Dynasty having a little bit of issues. So if MJF starts coming out next week saying it was all me, I'm the one who won last week, there's going to be problems, and I can see that storyline happening. And I like that they're kind of hinting at all these things going forward. So that was MLW episode 55. We do have a little bit of a promo. So Selena, before we cut off the broadcast, she announced to Casey Lennox that Gringo Loco would face off against El Hijo de LA Park. Daga would face off against Low Key. Cannot wait for that. And Pentagon would face the Destroyer, LA Park. And of course, she said if Casey Lennox Spanish didn't improve, that she would fire her. All good things coming out for next week's episode of MLW. Cannot wait, guys. Again, free on YouTube, 1 hour, bite-sized pieces of professional wrestling. What are you doing? Go listen to it. I love MLW. Now, we'll go over to the All Elite Wrestling side of things. We had Being the Elite, episode 149. We're not young like we used to be. We opened this with a promo by the Lucha Brothers, and they were doing it in Spanish. And then we had the, now, after we had the those guys trying to tell them how to do a promo and say do it in English, because these guys are too cheap for subtitles. And I checked the YouTube video. They definitely didn't put subtitles in there. They kicked them out, which was, that was funny. The Young Bucks have a Easter egg hunt with their family, which was really sweet. We have Lena Bates and Peter Avalon. They realize that they are not the one and only librarian, and they're just like, huh? When people come up to them saying oh, I'm glad there's two of you. Like, what are you talking about? Christopher Daniels is trying to do the SCU rant, but he's not. Kazarian and Scorpio Sky aren't there. So he's trying to get Kylie Ray and I can't remember who the other girl was, but trying to get them to do the rant as well. And they're just saying no, SCU's the one that sucks, man. Everywhere else, Kylie is, of course, finding it hard to say anything bad about the town that they're in. So Christopher Daniels just la la la, SCU is great, la 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 la, whatever it is. We have Cody and Brandy. They're at a football game. They're at this think it's a Hall of Fame tryout ceremony kind of thing. I don't watch American football, forgive me. They Hangman Page is doing a track. Hangman Page is doing a track course, and Cody's just like, "You fat prick." He's just like, throughout the commentary that he's trying to do this video with Brandy, and then he can't help but look at Hangman, just like, "You disgust me, Hangman. Good looking good, buddy. You make me sick." There's of course more body shaming. Who's full gear ready? We're a few weeks away from Double or Nothing. Who's full gear ready? I'm getting there. I'm getting there slowly. We have Kenny Omega. He's getting drunk with power, being the executive vice president. He's buying everything imaginable. He's just putting everything on the company credit card, and that's going to come to a head eventually. We see the Young Bucks training for their match against the Lucha Brothers. Like, solid exercises there. They look completely ready for that. Cannot wait. We end this with the best friends asking, "Hey, Double or Nothing's in a couple of weeks. What exactly are we doing?" And they're just like, "Oh yeah, how about we put you guys in the over the budget battle royal?" And they're just like, "Great, great." And they're just like, "Man, screw that. We're not doing this." And then it has at the end of the episode, "No, they're definitely in there. They're definitely going to be in the battle royal." But the best friends aren't too keen. See what happens. All this talk with having All Elite Wrestling have focused on a lot on tag team wrestling, making sure tag team wrestling is like the main event of a lot of things that they do, along with the women's wrestling. Yeah, they don't have any plans for the best friends yet, but hopefully they will soon. And guys, we had another episode of Road to Double or Nothing, episode 14, and this, ladies and gentlemen, was my favorite episode to date, especially after last week's with the reveal of Dustin Rhodes, aka Goldust, being a part of AEW, facing off against his brother. And this episode was just 4.5 minutes of Cody Rhodes just like bashing everyone in this really somber, heartfelt promo, talking about what it truly means to be the prodigal son, and what the stars of All Elite Wrestling can do, what they did at All In, what they plan to do for the future compared to a quote-unquote pissant bodybuilder. Shots fired Triple H when you call him the pissant, or AEW a pissant company at the Hall of Fame. That happened. Saying that the bra and panties matches spectaculars have got nothing on the women's wrestling matches they did at All In, and saying as electrifying as The Rock was, it was not better than Punk with his pipe bomb. They're slowly sowing the seeds. They're laying it all out there for Punk. Like, they just want him to come back. They need him to come back. I need him to come back, damn it. It's been 5 years. 5 long years. But this promo, this promo and the one before with Doc Goldust, that's enough. That's all you need for Double or Nothing. In just 10 minutes, these two have made this one of the most anticipated matches on the Double or Nothing card. I cannot wait to see this. Like guys, no joke, check this out. You do not see promos like this anymore. It is like amazing to watch. Cody is tearing up at the end, trying to say that I love my brother, but I am not trying to end my brother's career. I'm trying to end the Attitude Era, and saying that people tired of being compared to the 90s wrestlers and the early 2000s wrestlers, because they're trying to make something different. They're trying to be All Elite. They're trying to change the world. I'm buying it all. Like, freaking, I am all in with All Elite Wrestling, if you can't tell already. And there's no new episodes of 10 Pounds of Gold, although we did just have the Crockett Cup, and boy, oh boy, what an event it was. You can hear more of us talking about it in our Kings of Sports podcast, but I'll quickly go through it with you guys. We had the Wildcard Battle Royal for the final spot in the Crockett Cup tournament, which was won by Royce Isaac and Thomas Latimer. We had Flip Gordon and Bandito versus Stuka Jr. and Guerrero Maya Jr. in the first round match. Of course, Flip Gordon and Bandito, they won that match. The next one we had was Royce Isaac and Tom Latimer versus Jack Stain and Crimson. This was another first round match, which Royce Isaacs and Tom Latimer won. Moved on to the second round. We had the Briscoes going up against the Rock and Roll Express, Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. And these guys can still go. They're in their freaking 60s, and they're doing suicide dives. Like Albert, yeah. They're doing suicide dives, like, admittedly slower and more blatantly, like, it's rehearsed, but the fact that they can still do that, that's just incredible. But they actually advanced. So the Briscoes defeated the Rock and Roll Express in roughly 7 minutes to advance there. Then we had Villain Enterprises. They defeated Satoshi Kojima and Yuji Nagata. And then we keep going through the night. We had Allison Kay versus Santana for the vacant NWA Women's Championship, which, of course, Allison Kay defeated Santana. So she is now the new NWA World's Women's Champion. I don't know. We still don't know what happened with Jazz, who vacated the belt just out of the blue. Hopefully she's okay. But yeah, after 945 days, I think it was, so sad that she didn't get to 1,000. Like, I was really looking forward to that. We had Royce Isaacs and Tom Latimer defeated Bandito and Flip Gordon, so they advanced to the finals. And the Briscoes versus Villain Enterprises. So Villain Enterprises actually won against the Briscoes by DQ to advance into the finals, because one of the Briscoes pulled Turner into the corner to shield him. Mark used the chair and Turner saw it and disqualified them. That whole thing happened. We have a new NWA National Champion. Colt Cabana defeated the Mac. Freaking Willie Mac, I love you. I'm sorry to see you. Like, what happened to the One Nation web series? I mean, we had episode 1, and then they kind of forgot about it. Like, I think they wanted to try and do that with all their champions, like 10 Pounds of Gold, One Nation, and they were going to maybe try and do something with Jazz. And apparently not. They've tucked that under the rug. New champion, Colt Cabana, which, fair enough. But what happened after the match? James Storm, freaking the Cowboy, the person that I had the honor of talking to when he came to Australia for Hunter Valley Wrestling, he came out, cut a promo, introduced himself, congratulated Cabana on winning the title, but made it clear that he is next in line. The Cowboy wants the gold. And yeah, sorry about your damn luck, Cabana. The Cowboy's on your trail. Of course, that's for Ring of Honor Global Wars, May 12th. They will have their match there. I'm really looking forward to that. And then we had the finals, which not only were for the Crockett Cup, but were for the vacant NWA Tag Team titles, which saw freaking Villain Enterprises, PCO and Brody King win against Royce Isaacs and Tom Latimer to become the new NWA Tag Team Champions. So not only do Villain Enterprises have gold in NWA, they also have it in World Series Wrestling and Ring of Honor as 6-man tag team champions. Freaking Villain Enterprises are on a roll. PCO is having the best run of his entire career. I'm so happy for him. And then we had the very last match. Unfortunately, Nick Aldis retained the 10 pounds of gold against the villain Marty Scurll for the NWA World Championship. I mean, I was gunning for Marty, but unfortunately, just didn't happen. Of course, Aldis took onto the mic and said, if anything was proven tonight, it's that Scurll is the biggest star in the business who is self-made. He said that the event is proof that little project that people laughed at when they started was the rebirth is coming to fruition. And he said, this is the NWA and we ain't going anywhere. So it was a very spectacular event for the NWA. They had an interview with Billy Corgan. He's planning to do NWA events like the UFC, like he's doing the pop-up events and doing stuff maybe like 5-6 times a year, if that. So they're spacing out when they're going to just electrify everyone with some NWA news. So that, guys, was MLW, All Elite, and NWA. I'll run through the rest of the stuff in just a little bit after hearing with Greg with our sponsors.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B Plus podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Graps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today. Hey everyone, just want to take a second to tell you about one of our new sponsors, OUTBREAK NUTRITION. OUTBREAK NUTRITION are creating supplements for survival, sharper minds, quicker reflexes, all the energy you need to take your performance to the next level, whether that be on the field, in the gym, on the gaming field. That's right, they have specifically designed gaming supplements as well to help you focus on those late night sessions. They even sell coffee, you guys, at OUTBREAK NUTRITION. You can get coffee pods, you can get coffee beans, you can get supplements for the bedroom as well if you want to enhance your performance there. These are performance enhancing supplements for every aspect of your life, specifically designed by gamers, for gamers, to stay fit and healthy in the gym, to stay sharp and focused on the game, and to dominate in all areas of life. So check out OUTBREAKNutrition.com, and for being a listener of our podcast, they will give you 10% off your order when you enter the code B+. That is BPLUS at checkout. So make sure, if you want to stay on top of your game, if you want to take your performance to the next level, OUTBREAKNutrition.com, enter the code B+ at checkout.
And we're back, guys. Let's get into who's been signed, who's injured, who's leaving, who's staying, who wants to leave, who can't get out of their contracts, and all the other hot news, hot off the desk, here for you guys for all the rest. I'm a poet and I didn't even know I could rhyme. The bad 9-9 joke. Kicking things off, we have the Glamazon, Beth Phoenix, actually joining NXT commentary. So if you saw the latest tapings at Full Sail University, she was announced to be joining the Yellow Brand. So Percy Watson, who usually joins Mauro Ranallo and Nigel McGuinness on commentary, surprisingly wasn't there. We don't know exactly what his status is, but this isn't Beth's first rodeo with commentary. She did some stuff back at the WWE Hall of Fame back in 2017. She's been doing part-time announcing for the Mixed Match Challenges, followed by the Women's Battle Royal at WrestleMania 34. She called last year's Mae Young Classic tournament. She's no stranger to commentary, so it's not like a out of the blue, oh, how can she handle this? They've known for a while that she is very capable on the mic. We'll see what happens. I thought that Beth would be continuing on in more of a wrestling capacity, but it seems like they're moved. No, she's just doing some commentary, which fair enough. If she doesn't need to wrestle, like, she's proven all she can. She's multiple-time women's champion. Good on her. So it's more time for her with Edge. Yeah, happy for them. Some other people who are heading to NXT, we have Killian Dane. So now that Sanity is pretty much dead and buried, you have Nikki Cross and Eric Young on Raw, although we've not seen them yet. Hopefully they get some airtime. We'll see. And Alexander Wolf is part of NXT UK with Imperium. Of course, like their version of Ring Camp, Respect the Mat. And yeah, that looks like he's going to go back to the Yellow Brand, which sounds like a demotion, but no, it will actually mean that he gets some time to do stuff, hopefully. And not only him, but Tyler Breeze is expected to be a part of the NXT brand soon, which after his tweets a couple weeks ago, like freaking that's what he wants. He just wants to get attention. He wants to actually do stuff, instead of being a part of main events, like just the random offshoot WWE programming where no one's going to be watching. So, yeah, happy for them there. Hopefully they get some screen time. Some other people who've been signed. So, All Elite Wrestling have signed Jennifer Decker as their weigh-in host. Of course, we have Double Nothing coming up, as I've mentioned earlier. And she's a sports journalist and a model. And yeah, that like All Elite Wrestling, much like MLW, are going for the big fight feel. And what better way than with a weigh-in host and making this seem like a big, I can't wait, like just like a press conference, because like this is the world we live in now with professional wrestling. We're making this theme more authentic, like injecting some more realism into it. I love it. Very excited for them. We have Kurt Angle, as we mentioned last week. He's actually re-signed with WWE, but not as a wrestler, because he had his very last match at WrestleMania, so he's not going to go back into the ring, I hope, because we'll let that Baron Corbin thing kind of fester for a little while. But he's in a backstage role, 5-year multi-deal as a producer, as a road agent. Like, who better? Like, he's got decades of experience. Like, he would be a wealth of knowledge. And with all the people that the WWE constantly bring, again, another Impact person has joined a WWE producer role. Freaking WWE bought Impact without buying Impact. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's just weird. Lillian Garcia, beloved ring announcer, she's joined the Professional Fighters League. She's going to be doing some announcing for them. They've doing, like, much like the NWA, they kind of do sporadic events. They'll be starting theirs later on this year. But yeah, as for re-signings, Impact are on fire. They've signed some new multi-year deals as well. So not only have they got their X Division champion Rich Swann signed to a 2-year deal, but also Willie Mack and Killer Kross. I didn't expect Killer Kross to be leaving, so I'm glad. I'm glad that my belief was well founded. So I'm very happy to hear that Impact, the very least, has got those people sorted for the foreseeable future. We do have some injuries, guys, and it's, I mentioned last week how Jeff Hardy looked like he did his leg, and it would be suspected that he would have to vacate the title. And sure enough, this past SmackDown, he said that, he's had successful knee surgery, by the way. I should mention that. He's expected to be out of action for the next 6 to 9 months. And the Hardy Boys were forced to vacate the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. Very sad news. I'm not sure who on the roster should get them next. I mean, the SmackDown Tag Team roster has kind of been pilfered by Raw to make theirs look better. Why can't we have 2 really strong tag team divisions on 2 different brands? Like, that's so much to ask for. But yeah, again, Jeff Hardy, successful knee surgery. Congratulations to you. All the best with your road to recovery. And who knows if we'll see maybe one more Hardy Boy run, but I don't know. We'll see if the stars align for that one. Pec injuries are making a comeback. Unfortunately, Eddie Dennis has found that out the hard way. Over in NXT UK, he did his pectoral muscle. He's going to be out for about 6 months. Sorry to hear that, mate. This one hurt me, though. This one hurt me because I talked about this last week with Greg on the Impact Zone. Brian Cage, the Machine, finally became the new Impact World Champion at a price. It looked like he had done his back after doing his Spanish Fly. It was just a real sad thing to watch. He did an interview with Sirius FM Radio, I think it was, and he said, from the moment he did that Spanish Fly, he starts to feel pain shoot down his leg, and he says apparently the worst pain he's ever been in, and he was bitter. He's trying to explain to John Hennigan, saying I'm trying to move, there's nothing, and he felt so robotic in his mannerisms and his movements, which he's the Machine, which haha. But no joke, you could tell watching that match. And at the moment, so the doctor said, this is the quote that he gave, said, "I think you're going to be fine. You just have a severe inflammation and bone bruise. There could be a small fracture there. However, if it is a fracture, I don't see it being any major fracture. And even then, there's nothing you can do much for that. So maybe just err on the side of caution." So we probably won't see him in Impact for this series of tapings. So he'll have a nice break for about a few weeks. So hoping he doesn't have to vacate the title, because he worked so goddamn hard. He had to fight through so much shitty storyline, shitty booking with Johnny Impact, that whole drama. You can hear Greg and I talk about that more on the Impact Zone for those of you who are fans of Impact Wrestling. But friggin', I do not want Brian to have to vacate the gold. It would just be such a punch in the gut after he finally climbed the mountain after all that. Some news about people who actually might be cleared now the Planet's champion, Daniel Bryan, is apparently back in action. So we don't know exactly what his injury was. WWE will not reveal it yet. Well, we might find out eventually. It's expected that he will be written back into storylines as quickly as next week. And he might either, so we don't know, he's either going to be booked right back into Money in the Bank to make it a triple threat match. So it'd be Kofi, Kevin Owens, and Daniel Bryan. Or he'll appear after Money in the Bank and maybe have a rematch then, even though there's no automatic rematches, even though they're kind of still around. So, and this feels really rushed. So the whole point of Kevin Owens' heel turn was the fact that Daniel Bryan might be out for a long time, and they ended very quickly his babyface run, and now Daniel Bryan looks like he might be back in the next week or two, and it's just like, oh shit, we have two heels now. What are we gonna do? But if nothing else, we're just glad that Daniel Bryan is hopefully back to normal, and whatever was the issue apparently was in his head. Like if nothing else, he might be okay. So happy for the Planet's champion. He probably thinks we're all fickle for trying to forget about him, but I didn't forget about you, sir. I didn't forget. All the rest here, we make sure we keep you guys up to date on all the wrestling news. We have people who are leaving their contracts. Rhino is expected to be leaving WWE in July. That's when his contract expires. And this one, yeah, what more is there to say? WWE have done nothing with Rhino for quite a while. He was part of the Andre Battle Royal, but like, let's not forget. So he was the inaugural SmackDown Live Tag Team Champion alongside Heath Slater. They had that whole storyline there, and they've done nothing with them since. Like, so they split up Heath Slater and Rhino. Heath Slater was made a referee at some point. Then they fired Rhino. Then they didn't say whether they hired him back, and then they just kept him off TV. So yeah, it's expected, understandably, that Rhino wants to leave after not having done anything for the past few months. So understandable, sir. Best wishes for you. Apparently he's taking bookings already outside and doing some indie stuff, although we don't know when exactly that will be. That will be like before his contract or immediately afterwards. We'll have to wait and see. Some other people who are leaving their contracts. Lucha Underground, abandoned ship. Like, more people are suing the company to get released from their contract, and one person who was successful at this stage, Mr. Athletic Jeff Cobb, is now a free agent from Lucha Underground. The TV champion in Ring of Honor, the never openweight champion in New Japan. Yeah, apparently there was a bit of an issue, like Lucha Underground tried to sue him when he was part of the G1 Supercard. Bit of confusion there, and that's been resolved. So he has been released. Some other people who are apparently seeking legal representation are Famous B and Sonny Kiss. Apparently Willie Mack has been thinking about getting out of his contract, but he hasn't sought any legal representation. So at this stage, he is still a part of Lucha Underground if and when it gets to season 5, which, even if it does now, like, the amount of stars who have gotten out of their contracts, like, granted, they could sign more people, but Lucha Underground season 5 would be very different. And yeah, I'd be worried about this if Lucha Underground would ever, by some miracle, get a season 5 because all these people are leaving to do other stuff. They might re-sign them down the line. So yeah, in terms of the Temple Lucha Underground, nowhere is safe, so just abandon ship while you can. Speaking of Lucha, the Lucha Brothers, apparently All Elite Wrestling are in talks with AAA. They're trying to make sure that the Lucha Brothers are exclusive to them in America, and making sure that they're exclusive to AAA in Mexico. So making sure that deal is they're going to compensate the Lucha Brothers very well for their time heading over in America, which means that the Lucha Brothers have to stop their relationship with Major League Wrestling, Impact, and all the other promotions that they've been going around doing. AAW, I think, as well. This tracks. I mean, it's kind of hard to see if that will happen because if you see the latest stuff coming out from Impact, it looks like they're not quite done with the Lucha Brothers yet, even though Rebellion seemed like okay, they're going to definitely leave now. But no, they're on the latest tapings. That's neither here nor there. We'll hear more about that when Greg and I discuss the Impact Zone tomorrow, guys. But yeah, I'm fine with it. If it means that the Lucha Brothers are still okay to head to other places like Australia for World Series Wrestling, like they are in a couple months' time, hint, hint, wink, wink. If that can continue, if they go to under other countries, sure, I'm totally fine with it. Some other people, as I mentioned, World Series Wrestling, another person who might be leaving the Indies soon, the King of Dong Style, Joey Ryan. So we mentioned last week that apparently WWE had sent him not an official offer, but were kind of testing the waters just to see like what's the situation now that he's out of his Lucha Underground contract and whether they should look at him for maybe a coaching position down the line after a couple of years of doing some wrestling. And they want those penis powers. What can I say? It's the magic of the dong. But Joey Ryan is issuing a last line of T-shirts saying that I'm sure some of you have heard by now, like I might be going somewhere. Am I signing somewhere? Have I already been signed? One thing is for certain, my time on the Indies is coming to an end, so pick up my farewell tour shirt, #Raw. He's going to All Elite Wrestling. He's like, there's no way. Like I said it last week. There's no way he would even consider doing a role with WWE because he would be taking far less money than he's taking now. He's managed to craft this weird niche in the indie scene, so it would make no sense. And I feel like he's going to be doing like maybe an office position in All Elite Wrestling. They're going to find a cornerstone for him. They're going to find some kind of moniker. Like, I hope to God he's not another executive vice president. I don't think it would be like that. Junior vice president. Why not? Junior vice president, Joey Ryan. I'm calling it now. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, I do not see him being WWE. Definitely not. Some other people who... So we cut to someone who is actually back on the indie scene, Jon Moxley. For those of you who don't know that name, Dean Ambrose. So after saying goodbye to WWE at the Shield final chapter, he released a video on his Twitter, which he was forcibly told to get this Twitter account back in like 2012. He never used it. And then all of a sudden, he releases this video on his Twitter, this very bizarre like montage video just to say that Moxley is back. And it has like barbed wire. He's escaping an asylum. He's escaping an asylum. There's a big dog chasing him. There's a couple of like, this could be just be graffiti and just him messing about, but there was some dice on the prison wall, 2 and 5, which may look like he might be all in, hint, hint. And according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter, he is looking at a return to wrestling June, like early June, or maybe even a week or so earlier, which would kind of be around the same time as, I don't know, All Elite Wrestling. Like, I might be, it sounds like I'm grasping at straws, but I don't think I am. I feel like, yeah. And for those of you who don't know, Jon Moxley is a far more hardcore wrestler than Dean Ambrose ever was. Freaking two-time CZW World Heavyweight Champion for a reason. Like, as much as a storied career as Moxley had as Dean Ambrose in WWE, like he won the WWE title, he Triple Crown champion, freaking Grand Slam champion. He had all these accolades. Yeah, you never really cracked the surface with how the lunatic fringe could really become chaotic. And if he joins All Elite Wrestling, man, just think of the hardcore matches they could have, like against Jimmy Havoc. You wouldn't even have to explain it. You wouldn't even have to think about it. Jimmy Havoc versus Jon Moxley. Freaking Joey Janela versus Jon Moxley. If they ever sign Sami Callihan, my God, like that would be a nice little callback to their times. I'm all for it. Like, again, it sounds like I'm grasping at straws, but I feel like this can only mean that freaking Moxley is all in. We're just waiting for the news now. So yeah, I'm just very glad that Jon Moxley is back. Moving on to some WWE news, guys. Kurt Angle has had to cancel from another wrestling convention. This is the second one in a couple weeks because of his new WWE contract. This is for WrestleCade 2019. So he was booked for a meet and greet and everything else, similar to freaking StarCast. And WWE had to forcibly make sure that he no longer did any at all conventions. Like, they just don't like conventions, guys. I don't know what to tell you. And again, this is the thing. He's meant to be an independent contractor. He should be allowed to do this. But WWE are making sure that Kurt Angle is not a part of anything except whatever role they have assigned him as a road agent, as a producer, whatever he's going to be as a manager backstage for some of the talent. It's just a bad time, and like, it puts WWE in a negative light more so than they've been the past couple of weeks, because they keep digging the knife in, just saying like, no, you're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. This term independent contractor, I'm sorry guys if you guys are sick of me talking about it every week, but it needs to be said because it's not right. Other promotions, it's okay to call them independent contractors because, say for like places like Impact, they work part-time and they do stuff elsewhere. They're free to go and do what they want. But WWE, your life is completely controlled by them. And it's just a weird thing. So I feel bad for Kurt Angle. I feel bad for WrestleCade. It's just a very sad thing for them. Some other people who might not be too happy with WWE because they're furious at them, the Revival. So WWE offered them 5-year deals, $500,000 each. And their contracts are set to expire later on this year. And they said no. Like, money is not important to them. They want to be given like they want to be given their go, their fair chance on a wrestling product. And in response, like, for those of you thinking that WWE aren't petty, because they're very petty, Vince McMahon will hold a grudge till his dying breath. Dash Wilder has had 2 months added to his WWE contract after he had an injury not too long ago. And also, if you saw this past week's Raw, that whole segment about them shaving each other's backs, that was meant to try and embarrass them. It's just, yeah, that was WWE trying to like get their one up on them. Just like, no one says no to us, and we're going to make sure that your remaining time in your contract is absolute hell. It's just, WWE can be the most petty company in the wrestling world today if you try and say no to them or make it seem like you are better than them. Which, it's getting tiring talking about WWE in this way, guys. I'm not going to lie. They just need to wake up and they need to rethink their way of thinking. If nothing else, All Elite Wrestling should kind of push them in the right direction. But not quite yet, because at the moment, they have announced their next Saudi Arabia show. So the Saudi shows are still kicking on. They've still got their relationship with the Saudi Sports Commission, and they've got some big names lined up. Not only will we see the classic stars from the main roster, but we will also see the return of The Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, and Bill freaking Goldberg. Goldberg is returning after 2 years away. The former Universal Champion will be in Saudi Arabia. Freaking, there was a post that Randy Orton did. He did a tweet the moment that was announced, like, well, there goes $2 million of the budget. It was like, Randy Orton online does not care. He is straight up savage. But yeah, like, these shows, like, they're gonna keep kicking on. Like, we don't want to drag this out any more than it needs to, guys. If you're gonna watch it, like, good. We're the B+. We aren't going to invest our money into it. We don't support the Saudi shows. Like, trying to sweep under the rug everything with the journalists from last year. It's just, yeah. What more is there to be said? So, while that stuff is happening, then there's going to be another pay-per-view after Money in the Bank, after the Saudi show, which usually would have been Backlash, but that's actually been changed. So, they moved the Backlash show to a couple weeks after the Saudi show. They're going to allow a bit of time, and they're going to rename it to Stomping Grounds, as noted by the venue that it was meant to be hosted by. So that kind of makes sense, because having a pay-per-view called Backlash after a Saudi show, as hilarious as that would have been, yeah, you can see why they changed it. But yeah, what more is there to be said about all that stuff? So surprising one on there was Brock Lesnar. I'm surprised he is going to be doing a Saudi show at all. So for those of you wondering, like, well, isn't he going to be doing some stuff with UFC? Apparently not. So apparently he has announced his retirement from UFC. According to Dana White, he got the news saying that, like, Brock is, that chapter of his life is now closed. Like, he's 40, 41 now, I believe. Like, he's no longer looking at that avenue. It looked like for ages that was our go-to. Like, oh, he's going to drop the Universal title and do some stuff with UFC. And maybe after all this stuff of finally doing it, like finally planning to go here, maybe the money and the incentive from the Fox deal on SmackDown and the Saudi money, maybe he kind of realized that, hang on, I've got a pretty sweet deal here. We'll see what happens. Maybe he will become a more frequent member of the SmackDown roster, or just the main roster in general. But yeah, surprisingly, Brock Lesnar's UFC career is over. He was 5 for 3, I think it was, despite becoming a UFC champion. Yeah, it's just like that. It's over. And one person who smells blood in the water, the King of Bros, Matt Riddle, like, he is like a dog with a bone when it comes to Brock Lesnar, because his overall goal is to defeat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, if not for the Universal Championship, just to face him off at some point before he retires. He wants to retire Brock Lesnar. And yeah, the moment this news was announced, he said WrestleMania 36, King of Bros, Beast Incarnate, like, freaking let's make it happen. Like, I respect Matt Riddle's persistence. I can't imagine how much longer Brock Lesnar is going to be a part of WWE. Like, with all this Saudi money and everything else, I'm sure he'll stick around for maybe like another year. Like, I don't think Matt Riddle is going to be catapulted to the main roster that quickly. I feel like he's going to win at least one NXT title before he gets moved up to the main roster, and then maybe one other title on the main roster before he can challenge Brock. Like, just slow your roll, bro. Slow your roll is all I can say. But you got to respect his passion. You got to respect his fire. I've got a couple other news stories, guys, before I finish up here. One of the news that I'm kind of glad to hear, but I'm also very confused by. So, fortunately, at this stage, I'm recording, Brian Cage doesn't look like he has vacated the title, and it looks like Impact are trying to set up a storyline with him down the line against a very unlikely person, the most dangerous man on the planet, Ken Shamrock. So what happened was, Scott Del More, Impact producer, he's kind of like, I wonder what would happen if the Machine faced off against the most dangerous man on the planet. And then it started Ken Shamrock. He piped up saying, like, it would start off with decisive victory. Like, I can't paraphrase the entire conversation, but he's saying, like, you don't need to theorize. I'll break his ankle. I'll become the champion. Just you watch me. And of course, that Brian Cage started responding. He's saying, like, you can't do that. Like, I have a degree in Steiner maths. I know that the maths are on my side. Which I love that he said that. For those of you thinking that this is kind of out of the blue, like, for over in here in Australia, Ken Shamrock is one half of the BCW Tag Team Champions. Well, he's defending them on his own now that Carlo Canna is out with the injury. But he's been defending those titles everywhere in Australia. He's been defending them in Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney for the Lucha Down Under tour. And he can still go. Like, you ask Big Boy Mikey, you ask a couple of the guys here at the B+, they'll tell you he is in fine form. And if they were to ever do a matchup between Brian Cage and Ken Shamrock, I don't think they'd ever give the title to Shamrock. Although Impact had done far, far crazier things. Like, so maybe I shouldn't say that things like that. But if they were to ever meet, I feel like it would be something like a non-canon pay-per-view, kind of like United We Stand, how that kind of turned out. So I would want it. Like, the world needs to see more Ken Shamrock, just to see how crazy he is and how bonkers he is, despite being such a terrifying man who can crush you with one pinky. And the news I'm going to end on, guys, apparently the Fast and Furious universe is going to become like a makeshift WWE universe. I'm calling it now because, as revealed on Vin Diesel's Instagram, the newest person cast in Fast and the Furious 9 is none other than John Cena, the 16-time world champion. So Vin Diesel, he reported that he wanted to thank the fans for the success of the Fast and Furious franchise, saying he talked about Paul Walker, of course, his friend who passed away, and he's saying that Paul Walker introduced him to people at the right place and the right time, and this next person is a fellow soldier in the fight for the truth. And then out comes no one. I couldn't see anyone. Like he ushered, the camera turns, and I'm kidding. John Cena comes out, and he just waves at the camera, and yeah. So we have The Rock, John Cena, and Roman Reigns in the Fast and the Furious universe. If they ever have, okay, this is what I'm thinking. They're going to have the wildly successful Hobbs and Shaw. That's going to be like this bonkers thing. And then they're going to join up together with the Fast and Furious guys for Fast and Furious 10. And we're going to see never before, never again, John Cena versus The Rock 3, except it's in a Fast and the Furious franchise. And then Roman Reigns will kind of be lingering in there for some reason. The big dog will just be doing stuff. Like, what can you say about, like, so they've, with the issues that Vin Diesel had with The Rock, like, that he's gone off to do his own thing, and they're just like, what other wrestler can we get? Who is swole and who can kind of got acting experience? Like, I'm surprised they didn't reach out to Batista. Like that, I feel like he's the next person. If they haven't announced Batista for Fast and Furious 10, what more can you say? So, John Cena, while he's waiting for news about Suicide Squad 2, while we figure out exactly what role they have in store for him, why not? Fast and Furious, they're this crazy, crazy franchise. Anything they haven't done yet, the only thing they haven't done yet is space, which that's the test mark of a franchise. If they go in space soon, yeah, they've officially jumped the shark. They've done everything you can possibly imagine. So we'll see, Mr. Cena, how you do in this weird world of cars and racing and action. That was it for all the rest, guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to have a chat to me, I am Amos Mysterious with the 1 and 7 I on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Hit me up. Let me know what you think about John Cena joining Fast and Furious 9. If you want to follow our fearless leader, Greg Unchained, he's at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. If you want to follow us collectively here at the B+, because I think we're an okay bunch, we are at the B+ Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit, and the B+ Wrestling everywhere else. Reminder, guys, we have our Patreon. Any amount you can donate would be greatly appreciated, so we give you the best content, what you want, when you want, highlighting both the Australian scene here and the international one. B+ will have you back. So from all of us here, like, share, subscribe, hit that 5-star review. Thank you guys so much for listening. I've been Mr. Mysterious, and I'll see you later.